Hello and welcome to Uniko's 12 Days of Christmas Inspiration and Giveaways Day 8. These days are just flying by. I'm having loads of fun sharing inspiration with you using Uniko products, festive products and non-festive products. Now the other day, I think it was on Friday, during my video, I said about, I mentioned how you could change sort of the shapes of some of the stencils you use. So I thought I'd give, as it's Sunday and I like doing stencils on a Sunday, I thought I would show you a couple of tips and tricks that you can use with lots of your stencils that you might have in your stash. And also using dies as well. So this is the card that I've shared on the blog today. I've used that lovely festive fork snowflake stencil that I used the other day in one of my earlier videos, and what I used is this is a My Favorite Things stencil, where you get the bit that you can stencil through, but you also get the negative part where what I've done, I've used a little bit of temporary adhesive and I've adhered it to the card. Then I've applied, I'm just being careful because I haven't cleaned these stencils. Then I applied this stencil over the top and secured it in place and then stenciled through. And then when you take them both off, you're left with this lovely negative space, which I have then added a sentiment. Now, I used a couple of sets for this sentiment. So the With Love is from Everyday Love. The Christmas, obviously, from Christmas Sentiments, and I didn't have an @ in that font on its own, so I actually used the word great and I masked off the first 3 letters of the word and then stamped the sentiment to get the word that I wanted. So that was quite lucky, because I really wanted that sentiment. So there's an idea for me for 2025 to filling some gaps with this font, this sentiment font. And then I simply just embellished with a couple of heart, sort of they're like glass little gems that I've got in my stash, and ta-da, another card. So what I've chosen for this next one is another favourite, and it's been another popular stencil this year, is In the Forest. Now this one's great for Christmas, but it's also great all year round. But obviously I'm doing festive cards, so I thought what I would do is create a Christmas tree negative. Now I don't have any Christmas tree shape dies in Uniko dies, but like lots of you, I love all the American brands, and this one's from Concord and 9th. Now I believe it might be one that is retiring, but there are lots of similar shaped dies. Maybe you have a digital cutter, you could cut your own little sort of negative, but I'm sure there is something in your stash somewhere that you could create a mask. Even if I didn't have a die, probably what I would do is just create a simple triangle to ink through. And then all you're going to do is, I've cut my card. So this piece of card measures 10 by 13.5. I am just gonna find the middle again. I should really do this earlier, just so I can roughly get it centered of where I would like the Christmas tree to be. And I'm just going to secure this to my work surface. And then I'm going to place down first the In the Forest stencil, and again just use some Scotch tape to secure it in place. And then we place our negative over the top, position it where you want. Now I've done mine slightly bigger than my card, only slightly, and then again secure that in place. Now the reason I tend to do it this way is I find that you get a little bit of a crisper ink blending. Now if I did it the other way, there'd be a bit of a gap and you might get seepage underneath. Even though this paper isn't like super thick, it just stops any sort of seepage underneath. And I'm just gonna do it in a simple green. Now these are sort of really easy ideas of creating clean and simple, quick cards if you're short on time, as we are cracking on closer to Christmas and end of postage. But of course some of these cards we don't always post them, and we might have someone special to hand them to. So like me, you could still be making your cards. But whatever I have left over this year, I've got ready in my stash for next year. And of course you know that I have a lot of samples on display at shows as well. So I believe I have, there isn't many of these In the Forest stencils left in stock. There are a few. It's been super popular this year. So the prize today is these two stencils. And I'd love to know what your favourite stenciling technique is. Is there something that I haven't done before? Now, that's looking a little bit sparse, so what I might do, you can't really see the Christmas tree as good as I'd like, you know, sort of like the shape of it. So what I am going to do, I should have left it in place, but I'm going to try and put it back into position. So if this happens to you, like it has me, I might just secure this down. So I've done this before where it doesn't fully sort of show the shape of an image. So pop your mask back down, choose a different colour. So I'm going to go for a lighter shade of green. And then you're simply just going to go over with your lighter shade to reveal the shape a little bit more. Now you could just go around the edges, and you don't need to apply a lot of colour when you're ink blending for it to show up, especially if you sort of want it to be subtle. So I'm doing it slightly darker around the edges with this sprout colour. And then sort of leaving it a little bit more white in the middle. It creates a nice little glow. And then when we remove the mask, it will reveal the Christmas tree shape a lot better and define the edges better. And then this is just removable adhesive, and it just comes off with a simple rub. Just make sure you haven't got inky fingers, and then you can go ahead and add your sentiment. I am just going to simply layer it up slightly, and I still managed to get some ink where I didn't want ink. But I have a trick for that as well. I don't know where I've put my pencil eraser, but if I get ink spots, depending on where they are, I often put a sparkly gem or a sequin or something to try and mask it a little bit. It happens to all of us. I can't remember, what was I doing? Was it yesterday? Or the background blocks, and I smudged, didn't I? I smudged the ink. See, it happens to the best of us. As much as we try hard to keep these clean and simple cards really clean and really pristine, the odd error happens. So apologies if there is a bit of glare on the video today. I've got my lights on. It is quite dark here. We've still got the storm rolling over here. Now, I did read about these erasers where it's a little bit tougher to get rid of marks, but the only thing I do find is sometimes they can scratch the card, so you can try those, but it is only tiny up there. I've obviously put my hand on something, my finger on something that has a tiny bit of ink on it, but never mind. I'm sure the recipient won't notice it too much. So my desk is a little bit chaotic. It needs a good clean and a good tidy, but it's all good fun. So I've got this Simply Said blocks sentiment that I used the other day, Happy Christmas. I've got a little bit of leftover card that when I trim my cards to size, I always seem to have a little bit left over. And I'm literally just going to stamp the sentiment. See there, it hasn't stamped as nice as I'd like. So I'm just going to clean it, wipe it off. Probably should have wiped it off the first time. Luckily I have lots of these little pieces. Now you could have gone in with a fine liner to correct that where it didn't stamp. As nicely as you'd want it to. Try again. Second time lucky. There we go. That's looking a lot better. I'm happy with that. And I'm just gonna waft it a little bit just to make sure it's drying. And then I am just gonna simply add a little white border as I cut it out. Sometimes I choose to cut it straight along the black line. Sometimes I add a little bit of a border. Oh, the weather's been absolutely horrible here this weekend, but it's been lovely to stay in and craft and get ready for Christmas as well. We've been quite lucky, we've managed to escape any power cuts and things so far. I know so many people here, a lot in Wales, have suffered with power cuts, so feeling grateful we haven't. And then I'm just gonna add a little few squares of foam adhesive to secure this to my card. And then somewhere I've got some little sparkly gems. Make sure I get it up the right way. I've done that before. Not been concentrating and stuck the sentiment upside down, or so many things can go wrong. Now I'm just deciding where to put the sentiment. I actually might put it in the lower section of the tree here. And then I have these lovely sparkly gems. You can change the colour with an alcohol marker, but I'll just use some of these are really tiny but so pretty. And I'm just going to dot a couple about to frame the sentiment. Sort of go up the card. I might just put, I tend to do them in threes or odd numbers, and just look at sort of where I'm trying to balance them out a little bit on each side of the card. So I've got 4, 5, I'll do 2 more to make 7 and have an odd number, so I'll put 1 there and just 1 up there. Maybe it needs a couple down in the middle as well. Thing is, the more you add sometimes, the more you see gaps and think, oh, I could just put, and then you've ended up like putting them everywhere on the card. But never mind. I don't think we can ever have too much sparkle at Christmas. And there we have the second card. So there are lots of sort of shape opportunities and options that you can do. I grabbed this other stencil out. This is another one that I got from My Favourite Things, MFT, and I think it's called Square Extraordinaire. So obviously you get both sections, but these, again, it's quite easy to create your own just using thin printer paper. Obviously it's not gonna stay intact as long as a mylar stencil, but it works just as good. And you know, you can use sort of any of your die shapes. These are some Spellbinders ones that my friend gave me. You've got your squares, your diamonds, there's all sorts, and obviously your dies that match sentiments as well will work. So there's lots of options there for you, and hopefully it's given you some inspiration. Thanks again for joining me today, and I will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.